but let's not waste any more time. So Kevin Durant, during layup line, it was supposed to be his home debut in front of the Phoenix fans last night. I don't think I need the sound for that. No, I don't need the sound for that. Let's go ahead and just show the injury. Oh, we have the audio anyway. So there you have that. Yeah, that's just not good, right? So you see that here, awkward step. And that was the clip that really showed the injury. But if you see what he was trying to do leading up to that, it kind of makes it even more weird that this happened. So it's going to pull this view up and make sure to kill that audio. And, you know, you see him here getting ready, getting loose, regular pregame drills, and then just, I don't know if it was a bad step. It just kind of gave out on him. Now, he finished his drills. So that's why for some people it's a little confusing, because when Shams came down with the report that he's out for the game, you know, at that point, once you see him roll his ankle like this, and then he goes and he finishes his pregame routine, you're like, oh, okay, we just rolled it. But apparently it wasn't just a roll. Apparently it was more serious than that. And it appears, as we, you know, move on here to the next screen, there is concern within the Suns organization that Kevin Durant has a grade 2 sprain and could miss the remainder of the regular season and potentially the start of the playoffs. Now, the reason why that grade 2 part is the most important part, because that is an injury that, by and large, you're normally out 4 to 6 weeks. So it's not a grade 1 sprain where you're essentially just roll your ankle and you might need to miss maybe a week or 2 at the max. You know what I'm saying? So now we have a grade 2 sprain, which is more severe. It's closer to a complete tear. It's a partial tear, grade 2 sprain. So 4 to 6 weeks. Now there were some reports that people around the Suns, once this report came out and, you know, spells doom and gloom, obviously people around the Suns try to refute the report or try to paint a different, you know, picture, a different outlook of what the injury might be for Kevin Durant. And what we have here is that the Suns, including D Book, are all saying, well, Kevin's fine. They're all saying just Kevin's fine. Like he was walking around, but man's had a boot on. So I don't know how he's fine, but he's in the boot. I know a boot can be preventative at time. I understand that. But in regards to, I don't know if I would jump out that window and just say, well, because D Book and people around the Suns are saying, well, he finished his pregame workout. Yeah, he finished his pregame workout, and then y'all shut him down for the night, and y'all probably going to shut him down for at least the next few weeks. So that's just not a regular roll your ankle. You know, in similar ankle news, and definitely not to the importance of Kevin Durant, but Mo Bamba also is out for the remainder of the regular season because he rolled his ankle like severely the other day. I think it was over the weekend. So ankle sprains are no joke, especially when it's a grade 2. Grade 2, that's 4 to 6 weeks. That's normally what you're looking at here. So, you know, obviously the Suns went out and took care of business last night. D Book went crazy. I think he had a 40 piece in under 30 minutes. So there's no real concern in regards to how the Suns look going forward. I think the point is that if KD actually does miss the remainder of the regular season, that part's not necessarily an issue. The issue for the Suns is that second part here and potentially the start of the playoffs. Now, do they need KD in the first round? I would say no. They don't need KD in the first round, but there is a scenario. Let me come off the screen here so I can load this up here. But there is a scenario where you can't really play around. You can't play with your food. You can't play with your breakfast if you're the Suns. There is a scenario where if they mess around here and stick at a certain seed, they're probably going to need KD. Let's bring this back in. Okay, so you see where they're at right now. Make sure y'all can see that. Yeah, I can see that. All right, cool. So they're at the 4 seed right now. I was under the impression, and I know many around the league also, that they were probably going to catch the Kings, light the beam. They're taking on Knicks tape tonight. We'll see how the Kings do against Knicks tape tonight. But light the beam, the Kings, they were probably going to run down the Kings and probably hold on to that 2 spot. Now, if KD's out, as great as D Book can be, you know, y'all know how I feel about the point fraud. And if you don't know, we are not point fraud fans. You know, that point guard that plays for the Phoenix Suns, like, we don't speak of his name. He's just known as the point fraud. But, you know, I think there's a scenario where if this 4-5 stays that way, or even if we're assuming Memphis is probably going to fall, right? Because we're all under the impression that Ja probably won't be back for a while. So if that's the case and they fall to a 4, Phoenix takes them over, gets to the 3. If this stays where it's at, Phoenix, Clippers. Now, the Clippers have been a weird team to try to navigate and handicap. Some nights they look great. Boardman and Pandemic P go off, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what people thought this team was going to look like a few years ago when they were, on the cover of Sports Illustrated, when that was kind of still a thing in terms of these are going to be, championship contenders. That team was predicted to win a Larry O.B. Hasn't really worked out that way for a myriad of reasons, but more importantly, load managing and just Kawhi has a degenerative knee that no one is really allowed to speak about. But he has a bad knee that's never going to get better. And so whatever you get out of Kawhi is just gravy at this point, essentially. So that 3-6 matchup, can the Suns, with potentially no KD at the start, no Bridges, and no Cam Johnson, can they win the first round against a team like the Clippers? Like, I think if they somehow draw the Warriors, I think they're in good space. That's a good spot for them. But if they somehow fall, if they move up to 3, Memphis falls to the 4, Clippers stay around this 6 range, I don't like that matchup. I think KD will be back by then. I think they would rush because, again, Phoenix went all in. They did the move that they were supposed to do. Kevin Durant's available. You give up whatever you got to give up to go get Kevin Durant. Even though you knew he was coming off of a knee injury, even though we know he had a torn ACL in the past, it's still Kevin Durant. You go make that move. So that's not the issue. The issue is that if you make that move and then Mans gets hurt, you just send away all your depth to Brooklyn. You just jettisoned all your most valuable pieces to the Nets. The cupboard is bare. Who's left? And I remember, I think it was earlier this week, we were talking about the depth of the Suns and just like, well, look, they can afford an injury at point guard because they have campaign. But those other 3, there's no depth behind them. And we can go into let's go ahead and go into this roster because you're going to see, they win last night, but it's the Thunder, so we know what's happening there. But take a look at who we have here for your Phoenix Suns. Okay, so this is who's getting minutes. T. Ross, campaign. Look, he can supplant the point guard there. So we're not concerned about that per se, right? But in regards to who's the backup to DeAndre Ayton if he gets hurt? Who is it? Bismack? That's problematic. No KD, so now you're getting Torrey Craig. Okogie. Like, these are not guys, like, these guys aren't going to get that done. So that's why you see D Book went out there and went crazy. 17 to 23, 6 threes. Like, he's going to have to do that. Because I'm sorry, I know people out here still, clamoring for the point fraud right here. And y'all can't see his points there. I'll let y'all see the points. So I see people are still clamoring for the point fraud. But in regards to, like, he's mid at this point, right? Like, I think we can all, he would have had the easiest job ever in his career. And, on my podcast, the DCMD podcast, I do a running bit where every year the team that he's on fails for the last 2 seasons for sure. I do a reckoning, and we call that man to task because the basketball gods don't like ugly. And the basketball gods have found a way every single year. I've only highlighted it the last 2 years, specifically on my podcast. I dedicated an entire episode to it. But in regards to every single year, something has happened for this man. When he's in a position of power, in a position where you might think this might be the year, something always seems to happen. Is this yet again another example of the basketball gods proving that they don't like ugly? Anyway, so again, if D Book goes out, you got T. Ross. That's not good. Even though T. Ross is a bucket, he can do some things, but in terms of a playoff series, you don't want T. Ross starting. So there's no depth At least if you would have had, if you lose D-Book, Mikal Bridges, as we're seeing in Brooklyn Bridges, he's out here cooking. And Cam Johnson can also do work. But now when you go get Kevin Durant and you give up your two most valuable, not only just young pieces, but your most valuable depth pieces, there's nothing left. So losing Kevin Durant really exposes the fact that the Phoenix Suns really mortgaged everything. I know a new owner wants to jump in there, make a big splash and all of that. And he did the move that most of us would have done. Like, I don't think you regret the move. You could regret it once you have hindsight, once you have revisionist history. But in regards to in the moment, we're all trading for KD. KD's available? All right, sorry. Welcome to Brooklyn Bridges. Like, go ahead, had at Cam Johnson. Sorry, man. You had a spark when you started. Carry that on to Brooklyn. But now you didn't gave up all your depth. And what's left? What exactly is left here? Not much when you really think about it. Not much. So I think there's going to come a point where if you're actually looking for what can the Phoenix Suns be now? If they lose, all right, let's go ahead and do the schedule. Let's go ahead and do the schedule. You know what? We can do that be better from their page. I don't want to do wins and losses per se, but let's just take a look at what's left because seeding's going to be very important. And you just saw on the standing screen how, the loss column is so tight between like the 13 seed and the 4 seed. So they're lighting the beam on Saturday, right? Warriors, Bucks. Oof, this is not the easiest schedule. Orlando, that's a dub. OKC, that should be a dub. Lake Show, can't say that's a dub. Kings, Philly, Utah, Timberwolves. This is a brutal schedule. This is not layups. Look, with no KD and no depth, Phoenix could be in trouble. D-Book's going to have to, go into the booth and put on his cape. He's going to have to go into a phone booth and put on his cape if this team wants to move up to get that 2 seed. They're going to have to really go hard all the way through because this is not an easy schedule. Is this a schedule that if you okay, I'll put it plainly. If you're checking out the stream here, is this a schedule that a D-Book led with very little to no depth, can he will this team to a 2 seed? Because from what I'm looking at, this ain't no joke, bruh. You got maybe 3 cupcakes, maybe, because you got OKC and the Spurs. Outside of that, I mean, maybe this Nuggets game doesn't mean anything because they'll have the number 1 seed locked up for real. Maybe. But if I'm Denver and I got a chance to put you down lower, I'm playing Jokic, I'm playing Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, MPJ if he's healthy. I'm playing all of them. I'm trying to bury the Suns. So it's not looking good. That was a huge injury. Even though they don't necessarily need him for all these games, in purposes of seedings, now looking at this schedule, they kind of did. They kind of did need KD. That's going to be interesting with no depth. The issue is that there's no depth, and I don't know who you're going to sign. Like, do they go and sign somebody for the next few weeks to help them out? Melo? I don't think they'll do it, but this is a problem. Because again, the loss column is the thing here to focus on in the Western Conference. When you have, the play-in is 34 losses, 35, 34 losses. That's only 4 to 5 games behind where the Suns are at the 4 seed. Somebody's going to have to do something in Phoenix. And here's where that problem gets compounded, because now, in essence, you could have had the point fraud chilling for the better part of the regular season. He could have just been coasting. Now he can't coast. Now he's going to have to expend energy And this man, you know, I'm not going to say they've been load managing, but they certainly have been way more careful with his minutes this year than in years past. He's an old man. Now he can't really just rest and just coast into the first round. D-Book, he's going to have to keep putting up 40 pieces in under 30 minutes like last night to where they can give themselves a night off. But close competitive games, those are going to be increasing. Those are going to be something to pay attention to because he's going to have to expend a lot of energy. Deandre Ayton is going to have to expend a lot of energy. Phoenix, they're not in trouble. But if you put in the futures bet when they made the Kevin Durant move, dicey.